On this one thing I want to point out is I do it a little bit different than the book. The book has two ways that they find standard deviation. The one that is most common is the one from your formula sheet. So we're going to stick to one way, okay? If you look at your formula sheet, the third formula for chapter 3 says standard deviation. What I want you to do is circle the one that says shortcut formula because that is the one that is used in the rest of the book. That is the one that we are going to concentrate on. So find the one that says shortcut formula. Remember, you can't write notes on your formula sheet, but there's things I'll tell you to circle. And if you have it, circle the one that says shortcut formula, and that's the formula that's up here, okay? Let's talk about variance and standard deviation. If you look at these formulas, you guys, this is the same thing that's under the radical here, okay? So variance is called S squared. If you take the square root of that, standard deviation is called F. All right, now remember, those are the Roman numerals. We also use sigma squared for a population and sigma over here, okay, when you're getting used to how it's written. I do ask you on the test what's the relationship between the two, and there is a homework question that talks about what's the relationship between the two. You can say the standard deviation is the square root of the variance, or you can say the variance is the standard deviation squared. Just remember, variance is the larger one, okay? And then we take the square root of that, we have the standard deviation. When we looked at our test grades the other day, the averages, we talked about standard deviation, how much it varies. So let's look at brand A paint. Okay, we're going to follow this formula. So if you'll look right here, you don't have to memorize it, but let's talk about what everything means. N is the number in the sample. This is the sum of the x squared column. We're going to have to make that. And this one is the sum of the x column squared. So let's do this from start to finish, and let's make sure you've got it. Here's my x's, okay, this would be my x column. If I add all them up like we did in the previous example, we know that that adds to 210. Now I need to make an x squared column. So I take all these numbers and I square them, okay? So we've got 10 squared is 100. Then we've got 60 squared is the 3600. 50 squared, 2500. 30 squared is 900. 40 squared, 1600. And 20 squared is 400. I just took all of these numbers and squared them, okay? Now I'm going to add them all. So I need the sum of the x squared column is equal to 9,100. And I put an extra 0 there. Hang on. Said it correctly, but I wrote it wrong. So 9,100. Any questions on what I've done so far? They give you the x's, you add them up. You make an x squared column, you add it up. Now let's look at where it goes. So the sum of the x squared column would be this that I've highlighted in green, and the sum of the x column would be this, okay? You have to be really careful. So let's follow the formula. I'm going to do variance first. S squared equals N, the number in the sample is 6, times the sum of the x squared column, which is 9,100, minus the sum of the x column squared, 210 squared, over the number in the sample, which is 6, times 6 minus 1. So when you plug the top of that into a calculator and then the bottom of that and you divide it, you get 350. So you're going to do 6 times 9,100 minus 210 squared, and then you're going to divide it by 6 times 5, which is 30. You should get 350. That would be my variance. Now to find the standard deviation, S is equal to the square root of 350. And when you plug that in, you end up with 18.71. So variance 350, standard deviation 18.71.